Last 15 years or so has been one of the greatest bull runs in US economic history. During that time frame, we have seen the birth of a lot of new and innovative tech companies. A lot of these companies have gone public in that time frame, and they've been able to do so kind of under this age of free money, which is essentially this time period after 2008 when the Federal Reserve has kept interest rates historically low, at least up until 2022 when they've started to raise them again to fight inflation. The free-flowing capital from investors has allowed these companies to take an unorthodox approach to business. And by unorthodox, I mean grow at all costs. Who cares about profits? We can burn through money. The company's focus is all about growth, growing the user base and potential customers that will generate revenue for the company in the future. The idea is they're willing to take sort of a short-term hit to profitability to get these customers into their ecosystem. You can think of a company like Uber, which has relatively cheap ride shares or offers discounts on Uber Eats to get people to use that service. And then ultimately, they hope that later on they're able to raise the prices to a profitable level and then still retain the customers because they've gotten accustomed to using that service. Amazon is really the poster child of this growth model. For decades, they have been spending and burning a lot of money and not really returning any sort of substantive profit over that time frame, but they've done so in an effort to build, the world's greatest supply chain. They've also diversified into other areas of business like their Amazon Web Services and Amazon Prime. They've bought MGM. They've diversified into a lot of different sectors. For all of those reasons, investors really believe in the potential of Amazon, and as a result, at the time of the recording of this video, Amazon has over $1 trillion market cap. And for a company that size, they have not made a lot of profit at all. When you compare it to a company like Apple, which is a larger company, they have about a 2.5 trillion market cap, but they have made a lot more profit for the return on their investments and their business activity. Looking at data from 2009 to present, we can see that Apple has had a net margin of no less than 20% during that time frame. Whereas when you contrast that to Amazon, the highest net margin they've had in that time frame was about 7%, and that was one time, but most of the years have been much lower than that. It's easy to see why investors are really excited about Amazon for a lot of the reasons I highlighted earlier. They have the largest supply chain and a lot of other things going on. But investors have applied the same logic of growth at all costs to a lot of these other tech companies that have popped up during this sort of era of free money. And really gone are the days of value investing. You can throw out your copy of The Intelligent Investor. We're not looking for intrinsic value anymore or profitable companies. It's just growth at all costs. Now, don't get me wrong. I do know as new companies start up, sometimes they do have to operate at a loss in the short term to sort of establish their base and turn profitability in future years. That I get. But there are concerns with a lot of the talk of pending recession and how these companies might perform in that sort of environment. Remember, a lot of them have had access to free and cheap money over the last 15 years. That is going to dry up if the business cycle contracts. You are not going to have investors pouring in lots of money into these companies. Cash is going to become harder to come by. And more troubling is these companies that have sort of subsidized or operated at lower prices. How are they going to be able to raise them on consumers in a recession? If you try to raise prices when people's wallets are tight, they're just going to stop using your service. So they've really kind of put themselves into a hard spot at this point. The truth is, I don't know that a lot of these companies have a viable path to monetize. A lot of them have been around for a while now, and if they did, I feel like they would have acted on it at this point. The truth is, it doesn't economically make a lot of sense for all of us to have personal delivery men bring us food whenever we feel like it. If it did, a lot of companies would have done it in the past. And that's why I think, a company like Uber or Lyft, they really have sort of this tough monetization path ahead of them. The value in these growth tech companies really comes from perception. People believe that they're going to be valuable in the future. They're willing to accept these losses now for the fact that they're growing and they will make something that is valuable out of those losses. But the concern now becomes the contracting business cycle, all this talk of recession. That's going to squeeze them as their capital sources dry up and they're still taking on these losses. That puts them at the risk of failing before they ever realize that potential. Let me know in the comments below if you think the growth tech companies are in trouble or if they will be able to survive. Thanks for watching.